I think it bothers me when I see mediocrity gaining traction in certain areas and then getting noticed or getting, viral sensation type stuff. That is what bothers me. I think nowadays you have a lot of musicians who are influencers more than they are musicians.
Yes.
And a lot of great musicians really struggle with understanding how to market themselves. And so I think it's not that there's so much a flood of mediocrity, because I think the mediocrity is always there. But I think it's that the people that are maybe not so mediocre don't know how to get to the top.
You are listening to Successfully Unsigned, a music business podcast dedicated to helping rookie and DIY artists navigate their way in the music industry. We provide quality episodes and content to help you find the best approach for you for your career in music. Today we have a special interview with the independent artist Anastasia Elliott. We join her fan base, the Purple Cult, and get to go into her home and see some of the behind the scenes of what it's like for her to put on music videos, her costuming arrangements, and learn more of her backstory. She talks about gaining and losing a major record deal at a young age, and about how her plane crash has influenced her music career. We get to hear all of this and some fascinating stories from Anastasia in this hour and 45-minute interview. In 2 other videos coming out later this week, we also get to do a behind-the-scenes walkthrough tour of her house and studio areas. And of course, as always, her live exclusive Successfully Live session performance. If you enjoy this video, make sure that you share it with your friends, like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us on your favorite streaming platform, and give us a shout out on Instagram and social media. You can find us at successfully_unsigned on Instagram and Unsigned Podcast on TikTok, and share with us what topics you would like to hear next on Successfully Unsigned.
Welcome to Successfully Unsigned. Welcome to the Purple Cult with Anastasia Elliott today. Houston native singer, songwriter, pianist, gardener, motivational speaker, henna artist, baker, knitter, reader, opera singer, plane crash survivor, Purple Cult member, music video director, podcaster, editor, photographer, DIY queen. What did I miss?
Well, you called me a Purple Cult member instead of the leader.
Okay.
So I'll correct you on that one.
I almost called you the leader. But you said in another... Y'all, I've been doing research for this, okay? And you said in one podcast that you're not necessarily the leader, but just encourager / I don't know. I'll have to bring up the receipts, y'all. I promise I'm not a fake fan. But leader. Either way. Okay, so like I said, Anastasia, I am so excited for this interview. We are in her wonderful studio with this amazing backdrop of insane costumes. I feel like I could ask you a question about each costume and get a 1-hour answer, and
probably
I would eat every single minute up. But I have really kind of done a deep dive into you. You've been on a lot of podcasts, which I love because that gives me an opportunity to do a lot of research. I know you're someone who loves research as well.
I am.
And you have quite the story. And so I guess let's kind of do a brief background of your upbringing. You're very surrounded by the arts growing up. So give us the rundown, everything.
Yeah, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I moved to Nashville when I was 16 years old by myself. It was a pretty wild adventure. And but I grew up in the classical arts. My grandfather was president of Houston Grand Opera and was very instrumental in saving and bringing greatness to the ballet and the symphony. So I grew up around very grand dramatic styles of art.
Really? I would have never guessed that.
And that's definitely what
inspires all this.
Created this.
Okay, so you've been singing opera since you were 9, playing piano since you were 4?
Yeah, very young.
Okay, yeah.
4 or 5.
Yeah. So, and then when you moved to Nashville at 16, you didn't even really intend to necessarily move, right?
No, I came for the summer just to work with a producer that I wound up loving because I had spent my whole junior year of high school traveling between Nashville, New York, and LA to write music. And Nashville was my favorite because at the time, like there was not really much pop or rock here. It was definitely still very, very country centric more than it is now. And I was bringing all these like really huge, awesome country writers into pop sessions. And it was awesome because they would want to spend like a week to make a really great song, as opposed to when I would go to LA, it would be like, how many songs can we get this week? It was more about quantity over quality. And coming from like composition and piano and I think being stronger in the melody and musical end of writing, I loved learning how to write from these amazing like storytellers, because country music is so much more about, I think, storytelling than it is melody.
Yeah.
So I met this producer that I loved, and until that point, I had written a ton of music that I hated, and like for a long time, because I had this one asshole of a producer. My first guy I ever wrote with when I was 15 years old, he took the book that I had kind of prepared for our session where I wrote all these ideas, and he took it and flipped through it, and he was like, you'll never write great pop lyrics. Pop lyrics need to be fluff, and you're too deep. Like it's never going to work. And I was like so shy at that time and so mortified. And the producer was like, you play piano, right? Why don't you come and I'll show you how to build a track. And so for a long time I was like, oh, I'm good at that part, because he encouraged me. And then for years, I just like sat in sessions and like learned how to write just from watching people write. But I was like, I hate this music. Like, this is not me at all. And then I met this like one guy that I just like had this feeling that he was going to get it. Like he was totally going to get me. And I was like, I was sitting next to the guy that was developing me at the time. And he was like telling them all about my music. And I was like, don't listen to him. I hate all these songs. And I saw him like panic, and I was like, they're terrible. They are not me. This is me. And I started like throwing all this stuff into a blender, and he was like, I got this. And I wound up working with him I moved here, wound up working with him for a long time.
Yeah. Well, even like, I remember when I kind of first started researching, I was honestly kind of surprised you were in Nashville, and thinking I was like, oh, like she would do really well in LA or New York, but that makes a lot of sense as to kind of what brought you over here. Would you consider yourself like a pop artist? I mean, you are obviously have pop influences, but I wouldn't necessarily call you a pop artist.
No, I feel like in my writing, my melodies and I think sensibilities for always making sure there's something in the song that is hooky is pop in its ideology, but I definitely put us more in like the art rock category, or like rock with a twist.
Yeah. So I know you talked
especially the new music.
Yes. Okay. Which we're going to get into. I'm so excited. So I know you've talked about kind of when you moved here at 16, it was kind of a lonely, I think any 16-year-old that moved out alone would be lonely and isolated. But did you also experience kind of any people maybe taking advantage of you, or just mistreating you, like uncomfortable moments, anything like that, as a lonely 16-year-old girl
here
in the big city?
Here, no.
That's good.
But I traveled by myself for a long time writing. I don't feel like I have a lot of experiences being taken advantage of. I always feel like people have taken me seriously and respected me and my vision. I've never had like any weird, like this producer's hitting on me kind of stories. But it was very isolating and lonely. Like, I don't think I made like true great friends for probably 7 years. Cause everyone I was working with and everyone that I was around was so much older than me. I think at the time I like thought that I had really good friends. And then once I got older, I was like, these people are not my friends at all. Like, and they only hang out with me like when we're at the studio.
Yeah.
But we were at the studio like all the time. Like I was, working with all kinds of people, and some that I'm still very, kind of close to, but it's more of an acquaintance relationship. My life back then definitely looked like getting very dressed up all by myself to go sit at restaurants alone and read. And I was friends with a lot of the bartenders and like people that you know, again, I thought I was like going to like sit and see my friends, but they were just people that like I was around, which sounds sad, but it's okay. We have a lot more friends than I can handle.
Honestly, it's a really good lesson. Like when I moved here, you know, when I was 18 for college, and like I didn't really have many friends either. And so I would go out alone a lot. And like I kind of learned, that was the first time I'd ever really kind of been comfortable with myself. And so I think that's something that's really important to learn. I feel, you know, most adolescents go through that, usually probably closer to 18 years old. But I mean, something that you just kind of learn to deal with, because you're not always going to have someone there with you.
No. And I love traveling alone. I think it really set me up to understand how to be alone and thrive in being alone. So I love discovering cities and exploring things completely by myself. I think it also made me very quickly have to figure out who I was, and like I not having anybody to distract me from anything. Like I had a lot of time to just sit around and create and visualize and like think about what I wanted in life. And there was never like a dull moment. But I do remember stints of like 5 days where I didn't change out of my pajamas and was like,
and we've all been there.
I remember low points.
And that's all right. That's all right. So before you had moved to Nashville, like you said, you tried Boston conservatorship, decided kind of opera maybe had too many rules for you to go forward with, but and you kind of had your own art to create. But if the opportunity ever came up, would you ever do an opera show, even if it was just like one run?
We're actually working on something in this world.
Okay.
But again, it will be something I'm creating, not just being a piece in. So
okay. I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I literally have later in my notes, would you ever consider making your album into an opera? So
yes.
Okay. Good to know.
That will be happening in the future. But who knows? I mean, I'm just the type of person that doesn't really like to limit myself, and maybe someday, you know, when I'm older and, you know, there's roles available for like older women in opera.
Sure.
So maybe like when I'm in my 50s,
for sure,
I'll go be an opera singer.
For sure. If they ask you to dye your hair natural, would you do it?
There's wigs for that.
Okay, good. I feel like this is your natural hair.
It is.
Like, honestly.
We eat a lot of grapes.
Yes. We
drink this Kool-Aid.
We have this special purple Kool-Aid here. It's actually very delicious. And we have some cookies, which is always good. Always a good way to lure in members.
It is.
Okay, so this is just more of what's your favorite opera? Or do you have one?
I think the one that impacted me the most growing up was Faust and Don Carlo, because the Houston Grand Opera had done Don Carlo for my grandfather when he passed away. And it was like, those operas are so dark, and Faust is like the devil opera. And my mom remembers that being like the first thing that she's ever seen me just like glued to, and that she was kind of concerned, but also like happy that I loved something like that.
Yeah.
And, but I just saw Turandot in LA like 2 weeks ago. And I have to say that one might be my favorite.
Okay.
Like, so yeah, there's the ones that I think have impacted me the most. And then
sentimental.
Turandot, though, the sets were David Hockney sets from the 70s that were brought back. And it was just visually amazing. And the music was so good. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. You also you were number 1 soprano in Texas, correct? Do you know the highest note you can reach?
It changes.
Okay.
It definitely changes. It changes with stress and what part of your cycle you're on and how much I've been exercising that part of my voice. So yeah, it changes, but at one point in time, it was very, very, very high. It's definitely come down a bit with just like being really busy and not working that part of my voice enough, but hi.
Well, and you have this professional vocal training and, you know, have kind of strict routine for yourself, strict rules for yourself, no caffeine. And especially before a show, like I even remember the first time we met you, like you didn't say anything to us other than just like, Just to really keep that prepared, work on your cardio, your trampoline, got to perform your whole show on the trampoline.
Yes.
Which I really love because we'll get into her live shows, y'all, but they are an experience, to put it. Have you ever considered ASMR? Because even just speaking to you, like in all the podcasts I listen to, you just have like this super nice, gentle voice and very soothing and calming. Like you just speak very calmly.
Thank you. I would do ASMR.
Yeah.
My S's though, there's a really horrible frequency in my S's that's between like 8 and 10K. And it's like a big problem when we're recording. But I don't know, the ASMR community may really love that because it's all about
that might be your on TikTok. That might be your in.
I'm going to try some and I will let you know how it goes.
Yes. You also don't scream.
No, I wish.
Well, I was going to ask, do you like amusement parks?
I love them.
Okay.
I'm the opera singer at the amusement park, though. Or if you scare me, it's opera. That's all I know how to do. I remember when we were recording in the dark, there's like the one scream that I do that's like, I think exiting the bridge. And it took so many hours to get that. It was 5 a.m. I remember when I actually got it because my producer had just been like, keep going. And I was like, I can't scream. I can only sing it. Like, it's not working. And eventually I got so frustrated. It just like happened once, but I don't know that I could recreate it.
That's incredible. Well, so I was a choir kid and theater kid. And my choir teacher always, like when we would have music trips to any amusement parks, she'd be like, don't scream. Or concerts. Like if we came with our voice hoarse the next day after a concert, she would not be happy.
No.
And on amusement parks, she would always be like, instead of screaming, you'd be like, woo! Like just
that's
very,
what happens.
Like,
I get so anxious about like anything that could injure me that I'm very like, especially screaming. But like, I wish I could scream because I would love to be like a screamer.
Unleash it all.
Oh, I would love it. I saw this woman the other day who just does screams. She's like a scream artist for movies and stuff. And she overdubs screams. And I was just watching her scream and I was like, this is doing something for me, like the oddly satisfying videos. It's like something I can't physically do.
I love the like female rage videos on TikTok where it's just like women in movies screaming. It's so great. Well, and you saying you're so worried about your voice, you lost your voice for 75 days, correct?
I did.
And talk about isolating experience.
Yeah. It's horrible.
How does that, like, what did your everyday even look like of not being able to speak at all? Like even just with your peers and your family, anything like that?
I feel like I have a lot of like chunks of time in my life that like it was like around or after some sort of trauma that I just like don't remember them. Like I feel like a lot of people say that about COVID, that it, like it's just they kind of have like memory blanks. And for me, when I was going into my 75 days of silence, I really wanted to make like a cool art project, and I was going to call it 75, and I was going to create art in different mediums that didn't use my voice. And I was like, I must still be creative. And that just didn't happen at all. Like I was way too depressed. And at that time, I didn't know if I was ever going to sing again. I didn't know if I was going to get my voice back. And so there was no like light at the end of the tunnel that I could be like, oh, this is going to be fine. Like it was just horrible, and nobody would leave me alone. That was the worst, because I think I learned how to be a better listener and also what was actually important to say, because I would try to like write on my board or like use my talk to text or text to talk app. And by the time I had written something or typed it, like people would be on to the next conversation, and it would be like, well, was that really important to say? So my mom and I
choose your words more carefully now.
Maybe not. I'm a rambler.
I'm such a yapper. I'm like, I don't know if I could survive that.
It was hard. My mom and I, though, can kick anyone's at charades because she interpreted me for so long. My ex-fiance, though, was terrible at interpreting me. So like different people in my life were more fun for me to hang out with during that time because it was easier for me to communicate. But it definitely was annoying that I feel like they all were like coordinating, not leaving me alone, because I think they were worried I was like, really sad. And so people wanted to keep me entertained, but it just like, I think emphasized.
Yeah. Like this made me more sad that I can't speak to you.
Emphasized the experience that, I wanted to communicate and I couldn't. When I was alone, it was just more like, I wouldn't talk if I was alone anyways. So.
What was it like speaking for the first time after it was all said and done?
Terrible. It's like driving a new car. Like I was, or like, like maybe driving on the side that you're not used to.
Yeah.
Like it was like having a whole new instrument, and it didn't feel the same. It didn't work the same. Like it wasn't just like I could go right back into singing the way I used to. Like I had to completely like relearn and retrain brand new muscles. And I was like scared to sing without somebody watching me, like a coach, like being present with me for like a year.
Wow.
And even then it was still another year or two that I was like fully comfortable being a little bit more fearless with my singing again, even though I didn't injure myself singing. Like it wasn't a vocal injury.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know, you're allergic to time, correct?
I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Time is the enemy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Time is the enemy. Yeah. It was a freak allergic reaction that made this blood vessel inflamed, and too much air was getting through my vocal cords. And, wound up ending in pretty crazy time.
Yeah. Now it is my belief, no matter what, like how good of a singer you are, like I think you should take lessons, just because that way you can learn how to train your voice. You look at a lot of singers who were great back in their heyday, but now have since lost their voice. So, but then you look at others who were maybe a little more professionally trained and still got it. So I think it's really great that you had that from such a young age and are able to apply that now to preserve your voice till you are in the opera at, 80 something years old with your purple hair.
Yeah. What I do now is definitely 100% due to my training. And I'm always trying to encourage all my friends. Like, I feel like most of the artists I know have never had vocal training. And I'm just like, please get it, because I hear that your voice is like straining, and I hear that like, over time you're sounding not as good as maybe you used to. And like the longer that you go with that, eventually you're going to run into problems. I think it's so important, even if you're just having lessons like every once in a while, to just like keep somebody looking at your voice. But I go at least twice a month.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I didn't realize you were still actively in them. Yeah.
I would never not.
Yeah.
Part of it is learning, especially around our new music. It's like studio style singing is very different than live singing. So I will work on songs to be a certain way for the studio. And then I work with my coach to be like, okay, what are the points here that like I really need to breathe and like make sure that I'm placing things in the right way, or like this part I can move more. And it's a lot of behind the scenes, like staging to be able to go out there and jump while singing strong vocals and, and make it to where it's so second nature that it's not like people can't see you thinking about it.
And I'm assuming like a lot of cardio.
Not as much as you would think.
Really?
I need to be doing more than I'm doing. I need to start that back up now that I'm like ramping up to do shows again.
Yes.
But yes, the trampoline is when I'm going on a tour run or like shows are about to get intense, the trampoline and jumping while singing is how I know that I'm ready to be able to do lots of shows.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to kind of get into your story with your label, the plane crash, of course, and all of it.
Yay.
Thank you once again for listening to Successfully Unsigned. I would like to take a moment during this break to remind you to visit our website at su-podcast.com to view all of the newest and latest content that we put out. Also, do us a huge favor and hit like and subscribe on this YouTube video, and like and rate us on your favorite streaming platform. Each one of those things helps us out tremendously. We would love to hear your thoughts on what artists we should have on next, what content we should cover, what kind of topics we should discuss, and any tips and tricks you might have in the music industry. Thank you for being one of our favorite listeners, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, welcome back to Successfully Unsigned. We have Purple Cult leader here, Anastasia Elliott. And Anastasia, one really interesting thing about you is, our show is called Successfully Unsigned. So you're an independent artist, but you weren't always an independent artist. You used to be signed under Warner Brothers, which is kind of like dream scenario. Well, you had a dream scenario where they told you, do whatever you want, make it the most Anastasia record. So how did you even get into that? Like, what was the process like getting into that? And how did you kind of get lucky, at least at the time, to find that situation?
Yeah, as a lot of things have happened for me, and I think that do happen that lead to great things, it was very like random, synchronistic, just like happenstance meeting. I was in LA at the ASCAP conference and met a manager who managed Stargate, these really big producers and a bunch of really cool artists. And at the time he had taken me to Capitol, and the label president I wound up signing to at Warner was president of Capitol. And he and I clicked like instantly. And I had pitched with a lot of labels. Like I'd been in so many meetings with heads of labels and A&Rs. 19?
Okay.
18? 17? Somewhere in the high teens.
Okay. So still very young.
Yeah. I think. Hold on. When is 2014? That's 10 years ago. I would have been, around 18, 19 years old. So I met him as president of Capitol, and I had done so many meetings with A&Rs and label people, and I feel like they never really went well because at that time I didn't really have like much to show. It was just being able to like play them songs on the piano and like talk to them about my big vision. And a lot of them would just be like, oh, you love fashion and you play piano and you have a big voice, so you're Lady Gaga. I'd be like, no, I'm not Lady Gaga. Yeah. I am not making music like her. And at that time I wanted to be in pop. Yes. And I got so annoyed with that comparison that I was like, I don't want to be in pop anymore. I want to be in rock. And so I just had all these experiences with these A&Rs that were not great. And I would tune out pretty quickly. Like the second they would start like comparing me to things or just not getting it, I'd be like, well, I don't want to sign to you. Yeah. And when I met Dan, who was at Capitol, he wound up clearing his entire day and just spent 5 hours with me. And I just played piano for him. And we just talked about life and music. And I just loved him so much. And he offered me a deal at Capitol. And we wound up spending like 6 or 7 months negotiating that contract. And in the last draft of the deal, he called me and he was like, don't sign it. I'm leaving. Whoa. There was a regime change. There was like new president or CEO, new CEO. I don't remember, knew somebody that was affecting everybody. And he was like, I can't, not going to be here. And so he then went to Warner, but he had a non-compete clause that said he couldn't sign anything that he had started at Capitol or had at Capitol for a year. And he was like, I can't bring you over yet, but come to me in a year. And I was like, well, I don't want to be with anybody else. Yeah. I've already met like 1 million people in this business and I don't like it, want to be with any of them. So I wound up spending that year really like further developing myself and like the vision of what I wanted to make. And that was when I made the Boy Who Cried Love video, because I wanted to be able to take a video that I could be like, this is the kind of thing I want to make. And, this is as grand as I see it. And the day that non-compete clause was up, we started my deal at Warner, which then took another many, many months to negotiate. And it was a really great situation because I was signing to somebody that was really passionate about what I was doing, which is the, best label situation you can hope for. But I, lost that deal again in a regime change. So I think that's the really tough thing about going to be signed to a major label or, picking a person at a company to be with, because they play musical chairs a lot. Like they're always moving. And if you were going to work with like a specific person or group of people, they could not be there soon and then you could get stuck. And I was lucky that I didn't get stuck.
Well, I was going to ask, so all your songs on the album, those were all recorded in 2015 under Warner Brothers, correct? So how were you able to get that music back?
A really great deal.
Okay.
My dad is an intellectual property lawyer. So that is like my best advice is to make sure that you don't sign stupid deals and that you have a good lawyer, because he wound up bringing up a lot of things in the contract phase that my entertainment lawyer was like, that's standard. And he was like, no, it's not standard. Yeah. And also having the label president be my person when he left, like he helped to like get me out because they had fired most of my team. So they were basically like, you can either re-record the record to be more pop, or we're basically wanting to do more pop and hip hop. Gotcha. And basically female rock is dead. And that's not a direction that, anybody's wanting. So it really sucked because I had just made the record I wanted to make and put everything into it. And then it was just like, guess you're going to walk away with, but a lot of other artists got stuck without their music and like, you know, we're really screwed in that whole situation. So I definitely now consider myself lucky, but definitely did not get out of bed for a bit.
Well, what advice would you give to anyone who loses a record deal?
Take your time to mourn it because it is the like loss of a dream, but it's definitely not the end. I think it depends on your situation greatly.
I mean, look at all the things you can create without a record deal, you know?
I think the best thing that I got out of having that record deal was getting to see how things were done at that level and with backing and support, because it was kind of like, you know, I didn't go to college. I didn't go to school for marketing, for music, for any of it. And so I think getting to do it at that level, then I was like, well, I can do that. Like people's pockets just get lined more when you're in that, you know, with that level of budget, but why couldn't I do the same thing? And so I think having that deal and losing that deal is probably the best thing that could have happened for me to then, you know, go on to create the things I do.
Would you ever go back to a label?
Definitely.
Okay.
It would have to be the right deal though.
Yes.
I'm definitely looking for the next partner, because I think the hard part of where I'm at right now, as much as I love being the center of everything and, you know, in control of everything, there's only so much I can do at a time. And so I'm it takes me longer to finish things and to, you know, make things and I'm very overloaded with a lot. So for me, having the right deal is more about having a great team that can take certain aspects off of me. But I could never have a deal with somebody that didn't fully just want to like come in and amplify what I'm doing. I would not sign away control.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I mean, we'll get into it, but just even with your music videos alone, I mean, you, at least for these upcoming 8 videos, you have directed them, you're editing them, like that. Just the pre-planning alone is a lot, but then the filming is a lot and the editing's a lot, and just all the work that you put into it. I don't know how you do it all. So
like working till the eyes open, till the eyes shut.
That's what the third eye is for.
Yeah. The extra eye, we need it.
Okay. So going a little bit before that, let's talk about your plane crash, which I will say I was kind of surprised that there'd be a lot of people that'd be like, wait, what? You were in a plane crash?
That was why I was so happy when you were like, I researched, and I was like, thank you. Please don't be one of the people that interviews me and is like, you released a record? You were in a plane crash? And I'm just like, why am I here right now? Why are you wasting my time?
Like pretty much every interview you've done, or like even just your TikTok, your album cover is literally a plane crash. Like,
I mean, I appreciate any interview. I appreciate any platform to get to talk about my story and what I'm doing. But I do think it makes anyone you're interviewing feel really good when you know anything about them.
For sure. So in 2013, you're writing / going to record the demo for Crash Landing. And then you are quite literally in a crash landing. And it was it slid 2,000 feet. This was in New York and caught on fire, correct? During the landing because of a bad pilot. Not shout out to her. And you were only 18. You were only 18 years old.
I was,
which is crazy. So I have a few questions about the plane crash. It filled with smoke, and you guys were stuck in the smoke for about 25 minutes. Did that affect your voice at all?
Definitely. Yeah. I was kind of a mess for a while. I had nerve pain down my arms for like months, and the smoke inhalation was pretty bad. I mean, probably not for longer than a couple of days, but yeah, it was rough. Yeah.
And you were going to New York to record and work. Did you still end up recording and working?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
When you got to the studio, was it just like, hey guys, so actually guess what just happened?
I don't remember that part. I do remember though recording and trying to like be in the moment and be focused and having to keep going to the bathroom because I think having like tunnel vision, kind of like anxiety attacks, but like I didn't know that was what it was. And I just remember like having a lot of like moments where I would just feel very like overwhelmed and have to step away. But I also I didn't have anybody around me that was like helping me process that whole situation. Like I don't remember many people at all even asking me if I was like doing okay, like at all. So, and I love my family. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But emotional like intelligence in that kind of way was not really like great. And, you know, my fiance at the time had flown up to meet me after it happened. And then he wound up leaving. Everybody left and I flew home alone. Like, it was just like, there were a lot of things that I'm just like, was that the best way to go about handling it? Probably not. But actually being in the studio, I just remember having like moments of feeling like just very uncomfortable and freaking out on my own.
Well, and it was like what? Like had it been 1 foot to the left, it would have exploded or something.
Yeah,
when did you find that out?
It was kind of I found out different things in different kind of like stages. Like we had found out initial investigation things not too long after. And then one of my neighbors is actually a pilot for Southwest and did a whole deep dive on my specific crash. So he wound up telling me all kinds of stuff that like I didn't have access to. And then there was another person I wound up sitting next to on a flight. It was this guy who was like looking at flight manuals and it was sketchy to me. Like I was literally sitting on the plane being like, what are you doing? Like he was just looking at stuff that I was just like, what are you planning? Like, am I about to be in like a situation?
You're like, I've already done this. Like, please stop.
Yeah. And I wound up saying something to him or being like, you know, are you interested in planes? Yeah. And he told me that he was studying for something and, wound up asking me, I think there was turbulence and I was like white knuckling the seats as I do. And he asked me about like flight anxiety and I told him about the crash and he had also studied my flight. So there were like a couple people that I had met that like knew more information that I got to learn things from over the years.
Now I know you still fly and you literally were flying like the next week after. Do you still fly Southwest?
When I have to.
Okay.
It's definitely not my preferred airline for many reasons. But when I do, I try to like minimize as many visual triggers as I can. So I'll sit on the opposite side of the plane. I have to be on an aisle seat. I have to be able to get up. But no, it's not my favorite.
I will say, like, I fly Southwest all the time, and I do think of you ever since I researched it. And I'm like,
yeah, my mom was flying the other day, and she was like listening to my album on the plane, and she sent me a thing. She was like, "Crash Landing came on, and I skipped it."
That is not something you should listen to on a plane.
She was like, "I skipped it," and then she said, "Then I was like, no, I should listen to it while I'm on this plane and face the fear." And so she went back and she listened to it, and it was like this whole thing for her. And I was like, "No, Mom, we manifested that. We don't do it again."
I love your album. I would not choose it for a plane ride.
I wouldn't recommend it for a plane ride. I don't want to be responsible for that.
Nope.
She's got manifestation powers.
The other thing with the smoke, I had a question. You and some other members kind of took action and were like getting wet paper towels. Why did the oxygen mask not drop?
No, that
Southwest,
didn't happen.
y'all need to get it together.
The pilots never said anything. The flight attendants were crying and panicking. Like there was no part on behalf of the airline that was like actually trying to help.
And like to be a flight attendant, you have to go through some intense training. So it's like, come on, y'all, step it up.
I mean, I always feel bad ragging on them, but I'm like, that was
not all flight attendants, just those ones.
Just those ones. Just that one in the front that was right next to me.
Okay, so the crash kind of starts it all. It becomes the focus for the album, obviously. And your whole life kind of changes. You start reading more. You start going outside more and enjoying it. And like you said, working on your emotional intelligence and like kind of just created this whole new life for you. What did the album look like? Or was there even an album before the plane crash?
No.
Okay.
No, before that, I was just writing and figuring out who I was as an artist, what I wanted to say, what I wanted to sound like. It was just writing a lot of songs. I'm remembering now that you had asked me about a weird any weird song, any weird session situations that I had ever had. And I do actually have a great story now that I'm like, my ADHD brain is just like, I never really answered that question. I went on some other tangent. But no, there was not an album before La Petite Mort.
Well, speaking of that album, so, you know, you talked a little bit about, you wrote with a lot of country artists for this kind of storytelling thing. It's a concept album. It tells a story, but at the same time, you know, with albums not being quite as popular nowadays, it's also this fever dream of where you're able to kind of listen to in any order. But I do like listening to it from front to back. Like it definitely, you can kind of feel the movement through the story. And you're also, when you write, you picture visuals first. And you're also more of like a melody person versus lyrics. Dale's the same way. I'm a lyrics person. And like sometimes I show Dale a song and I'll be like, oh, but listen to lyrics. He's like, I don't even hear what you're talking about. And I'm like,
that's actually shifting for me right now.
Okay.
Which is very new. But I don't like to not be good at things. And I've just always felt like that was my weak point because of that situation with that man. And it really messed with my head for a long time and like put that limiting belief in my brain of like, oh, I'm just not very good with words. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And Crimson and Violet is one song on the record that I just kind of wrote in like a stream of conscious, like just kind of came out, and it's one of my favorite lyrics on the whole project. But the next record, the third album that we're working on right now, I really wanted to write it alone. And it just, I've been researching for it for 2 years. And so for me, like co-writing it, like those people haven't put as much time and thought in researching it. And so it was like something new that I was like, okay, I can't let this be like some random belief I have that isn't founded in anything. So my focus, like the past many months, has been to like regain confidence in my lyric writing abilities, and it's going great.
That's really exciting. What I really like admire about you is that you challenge yourself as an artist and you really love collaborative writing. But then I think for the second record, it was just you and your drummer, correct? Or
my band. Or my ex guitar player and his wife wrote a lot of the songs with me and my drummer. Yeah.
Okay. And so kind of narrowing that sits down really until now, just yourself for the third album. So that's
and
really,
my drummer. The music.
But still like, that's really great that, and obviously your music videos, which we'll get into, and how you challenge yourself with those and just being an independent artist and how you just keep it moving forward and being like, okay, well, what can I do next? But I did want to talk a little bit about some of the other songs that you have, before we get too much into the album. So The Boy Who Cried Love, which you mentioned, so that was not under a label, correct?
No, that was a pre-label, and we actually filmed the music video before we recorded the song. So, it was a demo, and my ex heard it, and he was a music video director, and he was like, we should make a video for this. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And we wound up making the video and then having to almost like overdub it like a movie. Like I had to like watch the video to like match my mouth to it. And but it was kind of fun doing it that way because we wound up almost scoring the strings to like feel like the dress that comes to life and eats the man. But it was more like scoring something cinematic than it was like recording and then making the video.
She has a lot of behind the scenes about The Boy Who Cried Love in London, which we'll talk about as well on her Instagram. Make sure you follow her at Anastasia Elliott, which we'll do all the plugs at the end. But it's really cool to like, excuse me, see all the different kind of behind the scenes of it all. Was that song ever considered to be on the album or no?
No, it was pre-plane crash, anything.
Oh wow!
It was just a song that
I wrote.
How
old were you in
that
that
I
music
loved.
video?
We made that music video in 2012.
Wow. Oh wait, so you were a teenager then? You were
very young.
17.
Yeah.
That's wild. I would have never guessed. You're so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm very glad that I've held up all these years.
You really have. Honestly, if you told me that video was filmed like a few years ago, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I
it's the
picture
juice.
That. It's the juice. It's the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you also have Love After War, which is funnily enough, your first song on Spotify, and it's with the band Pandas, and you didn't even know that was being released, correct?
Well,
it's from a demo?
Yeah, it is a demo. My ex-producer is the Panda.
Okay.
And so he was like, can you record this hook for me? Mm-hmm. And then they just used it.
But you were in the music video, right?
Yeah. Then I got to be in the music video, and it wound up being kind of like a fun thing. If I would have preferred to have worked on it more and like re-recorded it.
Yeah.
But, now I don't give my vocals for demos.
Fair enough.
Without paperwork.
And then The Shattering, which I want to talk about too, because that's kind of EDM song and funnily enough, a very popular song of yours, but I haven't really ever heard you talk about it.
Algorithm, and I'm trying to right the ship because now it'll like recommend EDM artists, and I'm like, no. Was
that just like a little one-off project that you got offered?
Yeah, it was just really fun. I wrote with Oh No, and we just wanted to write a fun song, and that was the quickest I've ever like written a song and just had it like come out. Like, I think it was only like a month or 2 months, maybe, like between writing it to them releasing it. So that was just a really fun side project that made me like, I loved doing it. Like it made me want to do more like fun EDM stuff just for the hell of it, but maybe with another name.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you little EDM alter ego.
Yes.
That'd be fun. And then you have a bunch of covers on there, but we never got the Kate Bush cover, which I'm really sad about. I'm not gonna lie.
Me too, because it was before Stranger Things.
I will vouch for her. I was listening to a podcast and she goes, oh, my next one is going to be Kate Bush. Do you know who Kate Bush is? And the guy was like, no. She's like, you need to listen to Running Up That Hill. And I was like, oh, I was like, is she wanting to sing it because of Stranger Things? And then I look at the timestamp. I'm like, no, this is before season 4 had come out. So I will vouch for her. She was ready to do Running Up That Hill. I think you could still do it and people would still love it.
We do have some of it actually recorded.
Okay.
I think when the Stranger Things happened, unlike most other people where I would have been like, let's do it now and drop it because it's trending. I was like, nope. Refuse to do anything that's trending. We're going to hold on to that for a few years till everyone forgets about the Stranger Things craze, and then we'll drop it.
I will say this, listening to your podcast, it's gotten me back into the song.
Good.
So I think it could work if you still did it.
All her albums.
I really should. There's a podcast called Pick a Disc, and it's a guy based out of UK. It's a music podcast, and they just recently covered that album. And so it makes me want to go listen to it so I can listen to the podcast. So we're going to take another quick break, and then we're actually going to get into the album. I promise I'll be moving quicker. Hey guys, what's up? It's DJ Patty G. I hope you guys have been enjoying the show so far. If you want to go find more, go to our website, su-podcast.com. We have lots of cool playlists there, whether it be from artists that we've had on the show or with other independent artists from all over the world. Also, make sure to follow us at successfully_unsigned on all of our platforms, as well as Unsigned Podcast on TikTok. You guys will be our best friend if you go rate us 5 stars on all platforms. And if you like and subscribe this video, make sure to keep watching so you can see more of our shenanigans and other tomfoolery. Thanks, guys. We are here for the album with Anastasia Elliott, La Petite Mort. You
said it better than me.
I took French from 6th grade to junior year.
It's the last word that's hard for me. The mort.
I'm not good at French.
La petite
but
mort.
I guess a little bit came out for me. So thank you to my French teachers. The album's brilliant. Like,
thank
truly.
you.
It's, finally, like, it came out this past August. It was 13 years in the making, correct? And when it was finally released, was there like a sadness about it being released at all? Or, I mean, I know you're still working on the music videos. Do you think after the music videos are out, there will be kind of a...
Not after the music videos are out, but I'm ready now.
Yeah, okay.
But when it came out, yes. I think releasing it was very difficult for a lot of reasons. because of it having been on Warner, and then having it be independent again. And then I was working towards an investment deal for a long time, and then that fell through, and then it was the COVID, and then we had just started releasing singles, and then it was COVID, and it just like had so many just like almost theirs and almost starts, and like almost, it's a lot of almosts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, with most artists, like especially independent artists, you look at a lot of them, the ones that start kind of gaining the success, you're like, oh, wow, like they're doing really well. And then you look and they've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time, but it was sad. Leading up to it, I was not ready to drop it. And I knew that everything was not set up for it to have the bang that I wanted it to. Cause it was my vision to kind of like have it be, you know, everywhere overnight. And I had set up so many things to like be of the quality that it could have been. And everyone around me was very like, it's time. Like, you can't keep holding on to this. There's more art to create. Like, you got to just let it go. And I think there was a lot of like struggle with that in me, because I knew that that was true. Like, it was time to let it go and also let people hear it and have it. And, but at the same time, no, I'm happy that it came out the way that it did, because overnight it wound up having like something 7,000. Like 7,000 streams overnight. And I didn't expect that, like without any advertising. Like, I felt like, you know, I'm going to have to put a lot into this to make it see anything. And even though that's maybe not like a number that makes people go, wow, because, you know, now we're so used to like crazy TikTok numbers. But for me, just putting it up and, you know, not having anything set up for it. And then the next day I went to the Ghost concert, and there were 7,000 people there. Like, I remember I looked at somebody and I was like, I wonder how many people are here, like what the capacity of this venue is. And I looked it up, and it was like the exact number that my album was. And it was like really, really cool for me to look around and be like, this is so many people. And like, this is how many people like actually went and listened to my work. And it was really cool.
As an independent artist.
Yeah, as an independent artist. And after midnight, like how many people were posting about it, that they had stayed up waiting for it, like people that I didn't know. And like, and that whole experience just wound up being very like actually joyful for me in the release, which I didn't know. I wasn't sure if it was going to be or not. And then I wound up meeting my manager like a week later, just from releasing that record. And then it was like, okay, now that it's out, it doesn't mean that like the songs are, you know, I can't keep promoting them. Like now it's time to really push the songs.
Them,
and now I'm going to finish the videos. And that was like a big point of contention between a lot of team members, was like, trying to tell me that I shouldn't waste my time finishing the visuals, and, you know, it'd been going for so long, I need to just move on. And I was like, no, like I set out to make this project, and it was before videos were even like that. This was not a thing that people did, to make videos for every song. Right. And that was like my original vision. And yes, it took me a really long time because we didn't have funding, but I was going to see that through. And, you know, I'm still seeing that through. 2 shoot days left. We're so close. But I think I learned so much in the process of releasing it. And it was actually my first psychedelic mushroom trip that made releasing that record okay, because I wound up listening to the whole album and almost like removing a lot of like dark energy that I felt like kind of attached to it over the years and over all the heartbreaks from it. And that experience inspired a song that's on the new record. So, you know,
well, and I think you've like really created this special community, and who's to say that the next record or the next one won't be kind of this overnight hit. And I mean, like you said, there's more art to be created. And so I'm really glad that you did release it when it did, release it when you did, because it needed to be out there. And I think it's something that's really special to hear, and
no regrets.
Yes, that's so important. Some really interesting things about the album. There's no digital instruments or programming or anything on there, correct?
Yeah, it's all analog. All the synths and everything were things that we had brought in that were real. Yeah. I told Dale he'll need to talk to you. So he's a audio engineer. So I was like, we were listening to the album on the way here, and I was like, yeah, I didn't completely get it because you said it in a recent podcast, but I
like sometimes when I hear audio engineer terms, I like tune out. And so I was like, I didn't fully understand, but I did get the gist.
Yeah. It's
So
like
that's
every
really
sound
cool.
we created was something.
Yes.
And that's kind of like, I think why it was able to be 13 years and it still sound relevant. Like, I think
Yes.
sometimes when you're working in the box and you're not, and you are using more like, you know, digital sounds, it doesn't maybe stand the test of time
That's
the
fair, yeah.
same way. And I think that that's why it was able to be released as like a new record and not feel old.
Yes, I definitely can see that. And with Crimson Violent, like you said, you wrote that one completely by yourself. Another really interesting one, Good, which is my personal favorite, was a one acoustic take, which is really cool. It really reminded me when I listened to it with that kind of like slow reverb at the beginning. It reminded me of a hidden track from like back in the day.
Yeah, that was why we put that space there.
Yes, it was really, really cool. Like I could definitely see like listening to it on a record or something, like how I remember the first time I ever heard a hidden track, I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And so I really enjoyed that feeling. Also, you should see me in the car trying to sing Good.
I would love to.
It is, I can't hit that final high note.
We should do
I can't
karaoke
hit
together.
it. I can't hit it, but I can do okay
It's a
with
dream of
some of
mine
the like
to
falsetto.
see somebody, like a friend of mine, do my songs at karaoke. Like one of them, just one of them.
I'll literally sing Good for you tonight.
Please.
Like I love that song so much.
Making my dream come true.
You also don't believe in autotune, correct?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I think that's part of where vocal coaching and preparing your songs and writing for your voice matters.
Yes. Writing for your voice is
I
so
think
important.
I think there's always an element of some tuning just to make a record sound polished, but I hand tune vocals and I do it for other people too. I love getting a vocal to sound very perfect, but the goal should always be to get it as, you know, perfect as you can. I think the more you start digitally modifying things, the less of the raw, like performance, emotion and craft, I think, is in it. Like for me as a vocalist and somebody that is trained since I was a kid, that is like the skill and the craft and something that I've spent years developing. And before I go into the studio or on stage, it's a lot of time to make sure that, you know, it's not like you just write the song and then like, that's just how it sounds. Like it's a lot of time to make a vocal like right.
Yes.
So I love vocal producing for other artists and helping them kind of get their songs where it needs to be. And I think when you spend that extra time on the front end preparing for something, you can be surprised how much less you need auto-tune and things like that.
Yeah. I find that very interesting. So I really appreciate that.
If you need the auto-tune that bad, you should write a different song. It's maybe not your song.
That's fair.
If I can't sing something live the way that it's going to sound on the record, that's just my personal opinion and what I want for my art. Like that's me, you know, I know auto-tune is a stylistic thing for some people, but for me, like that is my philosophy in my own art. Like I want it to be able to give people the experience live that they are hearing on the record and better.
Yes. Okay, so moving into your music videos and this idea of a concept album, we of course really wanted you on. Derek had texted us, I don't know, probably almost a year ago at this point. So this has been a long while in the making, y'all. But you are, like I said, DIY queen, an independent artist taking it to the next level with your music videos. If you have not watched one of Anastasia's music videos, if you have not watched one of Anastasia's music videos, you need to go to her YouTube right now. So I have some advice, which you've mentioned before, for anyone who maybe is struggling to make a music video. We just talked about music videos on our most recent episode. If you want to go check that out as well. We talked about Anastasia a little bit. And one is ask for help. You have a little community of people that help you out. Your mom makes a lot of the costumes, which we'll talk about a little bit. Your mom and your friend Lacey. And one other thing that you've said, which I would say, I work in interior design, and we always say this as well. Pick one thing that you really want to spend money on, and then the rest you can DIY or find, you know, for interior design, you would say like find a dupe or find something that you still love that maybe is cheaper. But in this regard, you can DIY the rest if you spend the money on one really big thing. Is there any other advice you would have for someone who's trying to make a music video?
Trust in your cinematographer.
Okay.
That to me is like number one, because you could spend like all the time in the world to make like a really cool costume or a really neat set. But if the person that's filming you doesn't know what they're doing and isn't using the right settings and like, you know, is not on a great camera, isn't smooth, like, I mean, so many things that can go wrong in cinematography, really then, you know, I'm trying to come up with a more eloquent way of saying it than like you can't polish a turd, but like it's true.
Yeah.
And having worked with different cinematographers on different things, that has been, I think, the thing I've learned the most is that is your most important crew member.
Yes.
Also write for things that you have access to, like when you're writing ideas, like for me, like I have this space. And so I write a lot of ideas that I can pull off in this space with time. Like if I have a month to build something in my space, like it's not going to be something that I need to do quickly in another location that I'm paying money for. Or when I've directed for other artists, like a video that I did for the collection Medication, I had this door that was supposed to be the door on that room right there. And I didn't want the door once it got here. And so it's been in the garage for like 6 years. And I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen with this door, but like someday something's going to happen. And when I heard that song, I was like, I have a vision with the door. Yes. And so I made this whole music video around this door being a magic portal. And I think every video that I make now, it's, you know, being like, okay, what do I have that's like a resource that, you know, is available to me, and then what can I build around that? Yeah. So it's like being limitless with your thinking, but also like I don't really edit my bigness on the front end. I think when you kind of approach something and you're like, oh, I have no money, I have no budget. Like when you're thinking about making a music video from that lens, it's probably not going to be that cool. So that's a really usually good point. I make the grandest idea I can think of. And then it's more of a like, how am I going to pull this off? What can I tweak to make this like easier to do? Yeah. Or at least doable. It's never easy, but
that's a really good mindset. That's really good mindset just for a lot of things in your craft.
Yeah. It's like, don't edit before you have, you know, already given something to edit. I think, Jordan Peele has a really great quote it's something, I'm going to botch the quote, but it's basically something like the first draft is basically just putting sand in the sandbox to play with and to build castles with. And I think that when I'm writing for a music video, it's like, if I don't have the idea, honestly, in the first or second listen, especially if I'm working with somebody else, then it's going to be a pass for me because it has to kind of be something that I naturally am wanting to create. But the first pass of writing is really just like dumping all my ideas into the document. Yeah. Then editing.
Yeah, that's a really good mindset for your costumes and everything. Like I said, your mom and Lacey help you out. So do they help you design them or do you design them? Like kind of what's the process with that?
It's different with every single one, but it's definitely a group effort. I don't think there's been many costumes where all three of us haven't had some element of, you know, touching it. Usually I have like their initial, like, this is the video we're making. These are the looks. These are the vibes for the looks. And then we kind of all get together and talk about like, okay, this is like the aesthetic. What are we going to make? And it's really, really collaborative and we work really well together. So yeah, it really depends on the look. Yeah. But
as a visual artist, do you say you picture a lot of visuals before even making the song. Like, where do these elaborate ideas come from? You just got a big imagination?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I think it comes definitely from my upbringing in the classical arts because those arts are the mixture of sound, fashion, sets. Like, I think that's just like the way that my brain maybe like works, but it's also just like being able to close my eyes. And I think we all see visuals when we listen to music or colors or, you know, any song probably brings up some sort of visual for you. So So it depends on the idea, but it just happens. It's just there.
Yeah.
The more that I'm in the flow and just letting it be there, I think part of it is like letting go enough to like be in the space and just like let it happen.
Yeah.
When you try to force it too much, sometimes it doesn't play along.
Yes. For your set designs, I mean, you've created a custom piano. You like found a crash plane for Bones. I'm assuming, do you do a lot of like research to find all of these things and figure out how to do these things?
Some of it's research. Some of it just is like synchronistic happenings.
Okay.
For example, Bones, I actually wanted to shoot in a cave. It was not a plane crash. And I was really frustrated because I couldn't find a cave that I felt like we could get all the gear down to, that had power and that looked like what I wanted in my budget. And I was just like, this is kind of what I mean with like letting go and allowing things to happen, because I've learned with music videos, like if an idea is just not happening or if something about it just keeps kind of hitting roadblocks, it's not the idea. It's not what's meant to happen. And for that one, I just kept hitting roadblocks with all these caves I was looking for. And then I was like, okay, what else could we shoot in? And then my guy that built my piano and my space pods and stuff, he wound up having a relative who had this like World War II museum exhibit thing, like not that far from Nashville, who had a backyard full of crashed planes, and it was like perfect. But in my head, I didn't think, like I didn't write the idea to be in a crashed plane because I was like, where the hell am I going to get that? Like, that's not going to be in my budget. And so it was, not just continuing to force the cave idea and to just be like, where else can we shoot? Like, let's pool our heads together. And then the plane, was perfect. Couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah, almost better than a cave.
Absolutely better. And that happened even with If and When, which isn't out yet, which we're about to film. But I wrote 2 ideas for that video, and each time there was a problem. Like when we would start talking about how we were going to film it, it was like, that's going to be too expensive. That's going to be this. That's going to be this. And then I was just like, that was the one video in the series that I wasn't fully like married to the idea. And I was like, maybe I need to try again. And then it was just like one day that the idea just like came to me, and I was like, no, that's the idea. And I'm so happy that I just kept like being like, okay, hitting roadblocks there. Like we got to pivot. And now this idea is going to be very cool.
And you have a lot of kind of behind the scenes of all these processes and everything. I know you're sharing a lot of it right now on your Instagram and everything, but would there ever be like a documentary or anything of the sorts?
That was the goal.
Yeah.
We filmed the entire recording of the record, all 17 days. Like they're 100% on film. It's just so much footage. I haven't gone through to edit it. I think maybe down the line doing a go back to talk about it all.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, it's more going to be breaking down the videos and everything on YouTube and doing longer form things where I show like from treatment to execution. Like here's all the things that happened. Here's all the things we've made, and doing it in smaller spurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you, do you plan to kind of have the same footage and stuff for the next 2 albums, or have you thought that far ahead?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course. The EP that's about to come out is probably only going to have 4 music videos of 7. And
I know that was hard for you.
It was very hard for me. 4 was already pushing it, because like the point of like it was to buy me time to finish this next very, very ambitious concept album.
Music videos.
But I just can't not do music videos for these 4 songs. So there will be definitely in-depth creation stuff around those. But the next album, I think, will probably be the one that gets the documentary and the vinyls and like the bigger.
Yeah, that's going to be the breakout hit. I see it.
It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Okay. No, I know I mentioned the opera, but I also could definitely see like your album, or maybe the next one, which I know goes a little bit darker, like as a like A24 horror movie. Like I think your voice and your aesthetic works so well for movies, like, or a graphic novel or video games, or even just your voice, I think would blend really well to any sort of soundtrack for any of those things. So I just feel like you have a lot of potential with your
I love that
work.
you're saying this because these are all like
All ideas.
they're all things that are
Get me on your
in
team.
the,
Not that I know anyone.
yeah, you've got the vision.
Good. You know, your visuals kind of remind me, I know you mentioned that at least at the time you were coming up with this, there weren't really any artists who were doing a full like concept album with every single music video, but have you ever researched Melanie Martinez at all? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I know Melanie.
Yeah. And so I was like a big Melanie fan in high school. And so one thing I really loved about her is that she had a music video for every single song on her first album, a movie for her second album. I was there opening day, and now is working on her music videos for her third album. So
no, she's awesome.
Yeah. That's someone who I was like, because I know you don't listen to a ton of music, but I was like, you need to check her out.
No, we used to rehearse at the same studio in New York, so I see her all the time.
What?
Yeah, she's
oh my
great.
Goodness.
She's very cool.
Well,
very cool person.
If you ever see her again, let her know about a little podcast that you've been on.
But you couldn't because she's signed.
We've had signed artists on here.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't mind. We don't mind signed artists. I mean, like obviously the idea is independent, but then our thing is just like, well, how did you move from independent to signed?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right, got you.
Yeah, for sure. So you have obviously the first 6 videos out.
5.
I can't do math. 5. So Cigarettes and Gasoline, which I know wasn't initially supposed to be on the album. I really love the denim dress on there. Have you ever considered a Britney and JT Halloween costume with Derek?
Oh my God. That would be amazing. I don't actually have the denim dress still. That's the one costume that I don't have. I only have the top of it. I don't have the bottom.
Well, the top at least.
The deal that I made with the designer was basically that she would make it for me for a lot cheaper if she could have it back to take to editorial.
Okay.
So that's
fair.
I had to pry it from my fingers after the shoot. I was like, this isn't going to be in my collection. And then I was like trying to negotiate. I was like, I'll pay you for it. Like, what do you want? And then she was like, it was going to be in a Cosmo shoot like that weekend. And I was like, no, I don't want them to have my dress. And then it's going to be seen on somebody else for the first time. And this was my dress and like our design. And And then I wasn't credited on the designs anywhere. And it was just like, part of it, but that's part of DIYing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, honestly, you could literally start your own little rental service for Halloween. Like, no. Oh,
okay. So someone actually asked me the other day if they could use if they could use my devil horns, and I was just like, no.
Okay.
No.
So for Bones, we talked about this a little bit because I came in. If you want to move a little bit, she wore actual animal bones for it, and she wanted human bones. Too expensive.
I did.
Yet you still wore human teeth on your hands.
I did. I forgot to go put my teeth ring on. I literally wear my tooth ring almost all the time.
I'm sorry, that's actually horrifying.
This is a jaw.
Like when I heard that, I was like,
jaw.
oh, that's really
I want to know
intense.
where she gets the teeth. The human ones.
I'm kind of scared where she gets the teeth.
I had like 7 of the rings, and I was just curious, like, are they ethically
She's like,
sourced?
my previous customer, it was actually theirs.
I don't know. I love them.
She's great.
Yeah, I wear it all the time. It's one of my favorite things because when I meet new people, like sometimes I'll catch them like staring at my hand and they like don't want to ask, but like they want to ask. Mm-hmm. And I'll just like keep talking with my hands and just like, I love the ones that ask.
You are a walking conversation starter.
Thank you. These are my bones.
That's incredible, also terrifying.
Really want to see the fish that this came from too.
Yeah,
probably one of
it's huge.
Those ugly ones. I really hope it was the one that has the light.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And then Crash Landing was one take, which was really cool.
It was.
And so what can we expect for the next 8 videos, especially with them being directed by you, edited by you? Like, there's going to be kind of a shift.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had a very heavy hand in the first 5. Like, There's not going to be that much of a shift because I very heavily directed those as well and was there present for every edit. Everything that was done on that was also me. These next ones are definitely an exploration of a lot of different vibes, and there's everything from magic to funerals.
Ooh, okay.
Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And chocolate.
Ooh, very fun. Is there one that you're most excited about?
It's so tough because they all have things I'm very excited about, or I wouldn't have made them. But Crimson and Violet, I'm about to start editing. I'm editing Bleach now, but then Crimson and Violet, I feel like that's maybe going to be my personal favorite. But I'm excited about all of them for different reasons, because with each video that I do, I always put something in that video that I don't know how to do. And that's a brand new challenge for me.
Once again,
so that
always
I can
challenging
learn
yourself as an artist.
something new. And I just finished In the Dark, and it was about 58 hours of me doing VFX, just the VFX alone after I had finished the edit, and like hand tracking all kinds of stuff and learning the new skills there. And that video I'm very, very proud of. Wow. Just each one, I think, spending so much time in, from the costume design and the sets, and then how the edit is just me sitting there for weeks, like combing through the footage and making the puzzle make sense. And then any VFX that have to happen, and then making sure the color is right. Like I have so much time and love and energy invested in each one that I'm excited for each one to be seen for different reasons.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Do you have a current one out of the ones that are out? Do you have a current favorite?
I feel like it would be maybe Cigarettes and Gasoline.
Yeah. That's a really good one.
It's a tough call, but Cigarettes and Gasoline for me was such a big personal moment, because it was like the first video that I did when I had left the label. And it was kind of like I have like no money. Like I got to make something that's really, really cool. Like I really didn't want my quality to drop at all. And so it was like, the song wasn't even on the record. Right. I added it to the record because I was like, I didn't want to guinea pig, my first release with one of my songs on the record. So I just like added the song to the record and made that video. And it was just very cool it gave me the confidence I needed, I think, to push through and continue to be like, I can finish all these rest of these videos by myself. Yeah. Like we can do that.
Yeah. And we have a little prop from it. All right, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
Thank you once again for listening to Successfully Unsigned. I would like to take a moment during this break to remind you to visit our website at su-podcast.com to view all of the newest and latest content that we put out. Also, do us a huge favor and hit like and subscribe on this YouTube video, and like and rate us on your favorite streaming platform. Each one of those things helps us out tremendously. We would love to hear your thoughts on what artists we should have on next, what content we should cover, what kind of topics we should discuss, and any tips and tricks you might have in the music industry. Thank you for being one of our favorite listeners, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, welcome back. So for the music videos, you've kind of started directing other artists as well. Like you mentioned, The Collection, which is really cool. Do you go in there and kind of give them your vision, or do they have their vision already, or what does that look like?
It's definitely somewhat collaborative, but mainly me writing, listening to the songs and being like, this is, what I see. Because I think when anyone comes to me, they're coming to me for my like expertise on making high quality visuals on the low budget or lower budget. And that requires, I think, me to be the brain power behind the idea, because sometimes when someone comes with like an idea, I'm like, well, you can't pull that idea off, and here are all the reasons why. So yeah, a lot of the times it is me listening to the song and then writing.
And just adding to your plate of things to do. Yes. Yep. All the editing and directing, everything.
I do love it though.
You also have a lot of Easter eggs in your current music videos. Do you have a favorite one? Or are you like, I want them to figure it out?
No, I think one that people probably don't notice a lot is that the door at the end of London, when the ship is crashing, that I look at is the cockpit door that's behind me in Crash Landing. So that video is kind of like the one that is before Crash Landing
Okay.
in my, my
Yes.
favorite order of watching
Yes, which you just posted about today on Instagram. I was watching it
That's
before.
one of my favorites. Another favorite is definitely the way that the thrones from London are used in many videos, and they will continue. You'll see them with the new
Very
videos of like how they have changed form.
Very cool. Okay.
And the piano will
Yes.
also have
that piano
have
has
a
been
great
used so
finale.
much. Oh, okay. I'm excited. I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting use out of the custom piano. That's
Use
that's
what
good. you
have.
So your visuals basically creep into everything. We have actually had the opportunity to see you live back in February, and hoping to see you again July 27th at the 5 spot. Go get your tickets if you're in Nashville, or even if you're not in Nashville, come over here. But they were really an experience. You have this incredible costume. One, it's right behind you. If you see that little netting, that's one she wore for the East Room. And you like walked around with like this veil over your head, and like we're literally christening people. You had someone pass out these cool little cards, which we'll get into this a little bit, but with this like whole interactive like AR experience. And then just your voice, like your energy. Of course, we've already talked a lot about your vocal train and everything, but seeing it live is a powerful experience. Like watching it, you were being encored. Like you're like, yeah, I was. But no, it was really cool to see. And I'm excited to see you live again, just knowing more of the songs now. I had listened to a few of the songs before I had seen you live, but now that I'll know the words, so I'll be.
That's the best. It's the best when I look out and people know the words. There's nothing better.
Yes. So all the costumes and everything. So, if you have never had the opportunity to see Anastasia live, do it, because it is seriously something. And hopefully maybe a tour eventually.
Yeah, probably we're looking to do more runs near the end of the year.
Okay.
All built around the new show, and it'll be a very new experience that will be created around the new music. So
very exciting.
New.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. So your socials too. I, like I said, have listened to many podcasts, and you and social media have kind of a complicated relationship.
So complicated.
And, but I want you to know, for me personally, looking at your socials, that was one of the first things I was very impressed with about you. Like before doing any research or anything, I was like, wow, she has really good socials. So as annoying and tough as it is for all artists, we have a whole episode on social media. You can check that one out too. It's something that all artists have to do and to promote themselves. And I think you do a really good job at it. And I think you should give yourself more credit for it. And, especially on Instagram, like I think you do really well on Instagram, which you said yourself. And, but I know you kind of struggle with TikTok as well. But I think sometimes, finding the niche in just one is really important, because it's hard. I mean, I look at some TikTok Instagram stars and I go, well, I go to some TikTok stars and I look at their Instagram and it's not that great. And then you look at some people who are big on Instagram and their TikTok isn't as great either. So
my socials are about to have a bit of an overhaul.
Okay.
I think with each kind of year or each like quarter, I learn more and more and more about what needs to happen. And I think for me, socials have always been something that I've had a very complicated relationship with and been annoyed with in a lot of ways. But I think I am now working really hard to find the fun in it and to reapproach kind of how we're doing things and the type of team I'm building to help me execute it.
Yes.
Because a lot of people love to say that they are social media marketing people, and they are not.
Fair.
From large companies to, anybody. Like it's a thing that's a problem. And I think there's a lot of people that are willing to take a lot of money to not do anything. So I'm building a very different team right now, and I'm very excited. I'm for the first time actually very excited to show up and make content for socials, because I will hit my strides where I feel like I'm like, having a lot of fun with it and really crushing it. And then, there'll be a week where I'm, spending 58 hours editing VFX and I don't have time to make, 3 videos for 3 platforms a day. And it just gets to be, that's where the hate for it comes in, is when I don't like anything that's like pulling me out of the art form and and it becoming a chore, because then I don't show up in the same way, and like people aren't going to feel it in the same way. And then you're just like, so I think for me, it's working in advance to where everything is, set up to where if I need a week where I'm just going to not care about it, and I'm going to, go in my edit cave, things are not going to fall apart because I couldn't show up for a week.
Yeah. I think you'll get the groove in it, but I do think you really should give yourself more credit on it.
I enjoy connecting with people. Yes, and I think that's my favorite part. It's just the part that is not fun is when you're, editing a lot and doing a lot, and then you're maybe not getting the feedback or the connection that you want. And then it's like, oh my God, this is so much time, and it's not,
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I was stalking your Instagram and like went back to the very beginning in like 2018, at least from where your posts were when I looked. And you like had this air of mystery about you. Like you wouldn't show your face. You're just like, something's coming. And I was like, oh man, like I have heard you talk about like you try to maybe kind of start out with a little more mysterious thing, but have grown to be a lot more vulnerable and, just open on your socials. I think that's honestly something that's really important. And I mean, something we've seen with Instagram and its waves of different things that cater to different audiences. But I really like how open you are on Instagram and everything. I also think for TikTok, I think there are avenues that you can find, and they allow 10-minute videos. I think they even allow 30-minute videos now. So I know
I'm enjoying it. I think, I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Definitely keep an eye out because we're about to have fun with it.
Okay. I'm excited. Do you think that TikTok is ruining the music industry?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think. Such a loaded question. I have so many thoughts. I don't think that it is any particular platform itself that is ruining the music industry. I think it's more. It's a mixture between the fact that the gates are so open that anyone and their brother thinks that they can be an artist and have a career in that. And also the fact that because there's now so much noise, it's harder to...
I literally have so much noise quoted from you on here.
So it's a buzzword for me, I guess. Because there's so much noise, it's harder to break through that noise, but also it's clogged the systems so much to like the proper release channels that now that's why everything has shifted to be so algorithmic based. So I think that it's, and then you've got, the music industry that is looking to those things for your viability. And I think that that's very wrong. I think it's a lot of things holding hands in creating the hellscape of our current industry. It's the industry and how they are looking at the platforms, and it's artists not having self-awareness, and it's the platforms themselves and the way that they push content and how they deem things to be viable. I have on here a quote where you said it's everybody's fault. It's everybody's fault. It's everybody's fault. And we actually talked about last week, we talked about Spotify and just kind of some of the changes with it, and how I'm like, we kind of digged on Spotify, but then I was like, but at the same time, like they got me in a chokehold. I just made a bunch of playlists. Like it's hard. It's hard. The same with, most of the ways I think that we're ruining things in the world. Yeah. Yeah. It's everybody's fault. So do you feel like you're an artist in the wrong generation? Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I really think that the 80s would be a lot of fun to be in. But at the same time, I think that my ability to do the things that I do would not have been possible back then. So maybe not. I think my hope is to kind of spearhead a new generation of, what an artist can look like. Yes. I think you're doing something really special and something different. Thank you. Does mediocrity bother you as an artist? Absolutely. It bothers me, but yes and no. Mediocrity, I think it's one of those times where I'm like, how much terrain in my mouth? I believe very, very strongly, which is the message of my entire brand. And what I am constantly pushing is that everybody is an artist. Every single human being, whether you consider yourself an artist or not, like we are creatures that are meant to create. But I think it bothers me when I see mediocrity gaining traction in certain areas and then getting noticed or getting, just because of the, viral sensation type stuff. That is what bothers me.
Yeah.
When people, I think nowadays you have a lot of musicians who are influencers more than they are musicians.
Yes.
And a lot of great musicians really struggle with understanding how to market themselves. And so I think it's not that there's so much a flood of mediocrity, because I think the mediocrity is always there in any industry, in any place. But I think it's that the people that are maybe not so mediocre don't know how to get to the top.
Yeah. I think that's a really,
without help.
I think that's a really good politically correct way of saying it. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine David Bowie or Kate Bush or any of them spending time making TikToks? They would tell you things I'm not allowed to say on this podcast.
Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
No.
Okay.
I just think I have high standards.
Okay.
I think when you hold yourself to certain standards, like I'm not the type of person that, like a lot of people, like producers and writers will say, like, you can keep tweaking a song and you can like never stop working on it. And, that's not the way that I am. Like, I know when something is done. I know when it is like as good as it can be. I think for me, it's just that I have high standards for my own work and for my team. And it's not done until we get there. And I do have moments where I'm like, okay, that's done. That is perfect to my standards.
Does it get exhausting though, expecting so much out of yourself in art?
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm constantly exhausted, but I also don't see a point if I'm not. Like, to me,
it's work.
This business is so difficult. If you're not holding yourself to those high standards, and if you wouldn't die for your work and give up your friends and your family and your free time for it, what is the point? Like, that's what it requires from you, I think, to get to the level that I'm trying to get to. And I love it that much.
Hobby,
exactly.
Yeah.
To me, like, I'm never going to choose the social event over the art. Like, it's never going to happen. I would give up absolutely anything in the entire world just to have the career that I want.
Okay, so I kind of want to, jumping off of that, talk about mental health. You're a very big mental health advocate on socials. You've gone to schools, talked about it. I'm going to read just like some quotes that I've collected. How you said, you can never achieve 100% mental health. It ebbs and flows, and that you must learn to be comfortable in the darkness and turn it into gold. And it's a wasted opportunity if not. And even if you're not a creative person, then you still can make something, whether it's, doodling in your work journal or work notebook, whatever it might be. And you've learned to not hate trauma anymore, but to welcome it as the trauma fairy.
Yes, the trauma fairy.
Knowing it'll make you stronger, probably produce some great art. And you said being positive all the time would be so boring. Trauma is the meat of life.
It is.
And one thing that I just really love that you said is you are the magic that drives the operation and the right people show up.
It's true. So
I really enjoy all of those things that you said.
Thank you. Those are some great sound bites.
They really are. Yeah. Well, some of them, it's like recorded in my car, awesome. But yeah, I really appreciate that you preach all that and that you have so many kind of quick things to go to of like, I've been through it, but you figure it out and you make something beautiful out of it.
Yeah, it's the only way I think that makes it worth it, which is why I spent 13 years making an album that has all this stuff just to work through a plane crash and explore all those things,
Yes. Well, speaking of being the magic that drives the operation, let's talk a little bit about the Purple Cult.
Yes.
In our Kool-Aid. It's all about being your best, most creative self. So, I don't know, indoctrinate us. Like, what's so great about purple?
Purple is, I think, the most unique and special color that there is because it sits between red and blue on the spectrum. And it's like the only color that doesn't have its own wave. It's like, I forget what the word is, but it's on its own kind of like own spectrum. And its color theory is magic and authenticity and boldness and uniqueness. And to me, like that is what you should be living your life in service to. And so the purple cult to me is like a cult is something that is basically something that has an ideology that is for a thing. And so to me, that is what we should all be dedicating our lives to, is being creative and, living to see all the magic in the world. And I definitely know that when I surround myself with the color and wear it a lot and, try to embody it constantly, it is always fueling my creativity.
But it's not even your favorite color. So the most important question on this podcast, what is your favorite color?
I don't think I have one.
Okay.
I don't think there's any color that I'm just like, yes, I love that color. I think I see each color for what its like value is to adding, to our world, kind of like working with crystals. Like to me, colors are kind of like clearly there's a lot of colors here, but I think red and purple are the ones I'm drawn to the most. And gold. I don't know if gold's like technically a color, but those are my three, I would say, like favorite colors that I surround myself with the most. But
and we're purple and gold today. So perfect.
And both velvet. We did not plan that.
Yes, we did not plan it. We did not plan it, but we're sticking together.
But blue is calm and yellow is happy, and they all have their own, things that they add.
How much purple dye do you think you've gone through between your hair, costumes, etc.?
Well, my hair is natural.
Your hair is natural. That's right. Yeah, it's the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Purple dye. I feel like there's always a vat of that stinky purple dye upstairs.
Stinky,
it smells so bad. We dye costumes a lot. This one in particular was dyed.
Okay.
A couple of these have been dyed, but purple is actually a very hard color to find. Sometimes in fabrics that we're looking for. So we love customizing our purple colors.
Would you ever trademark your own like purple or like be like, this is the Anastasia
Absolutely,
purple cult?
I would.
Okay. I feel like I was like, man, I have so many of these.
It's on the list.
Yeah. I was like, I have so many of these great ideas. You're like, yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
You should see the idea document.
Okay. So you have, actually, we'll get to that. So we have a little game that I want to do real quick. We'll just name an artist, and you'll say, let's say you're on the same level as them, and just say if you would collaborate with them or not.
Let's go.
I know you don't listen to a ton of music, but I think you'll know most of these. David Bowie.
Duh.
Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
Marina and the Diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay. Melanie Martinez.
Yeah.
Florence and the Machine.
Yes.
Coldplay.
Yes.
Ariana Grande.
No.
I love Ariana. Kelly Clarkson.
No.
Okay. Olivia Rodrigo. She loves purple.
No.
Oh. Kate Bush.
Yes.
Harry Styles.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I can get down with that. Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. I mean, a very visual person.
Yeah.
And the last one we asked everyone, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I get that money.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like,
I honestly feel that I believe I could make something cool with anybody. Yeah. So I would probably collaborate with any of them, but the ones I would be more excited about, you could tell in my voice inflection, I'm sure which ones I would be way more excited than others. But I would, I think working with any artist is a privilege. So I can see doing something cool with any of them.
Where I was like, my thing is, I'm like, even if I don't necessarily love Taylor Swift's music, it's like, if you collaborate with her, you're going to get traction of some sort. So, okay, real quick. You're starting to kind of work with some AR with merch. Your merch is really good, by the way. I need to get some today while I'm here.
It's here.
Don't let me forget. And with some like performing tech, which you've talked about at NAMM, which is really cool. And you're possibly starting a podcast, tech podcast.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh yeah.
It's not really been something we've had a lot of time to work on now, but it is something that is kind of still in the works. It's just probably a little bit farther out of a project. But I love working on new ways to incorporate tech into fashion and music and everything. And our shirts are AR enabled. So when you scan them, they have like behind the scenes stuff and little rabbit holes they can send you on and the cards. And
this was really cool. I'll send you a video of this.
It's my mission to make everything that I do an experience. So,
and you make sure of that. Well, your next experience will be the 7-song EP. So we're really excited about that. And I know you're sad that you're only getting 4 music videos, but I know it's still going to be
I'm not. They're the right for it. And it doesn't mean the others won't have visuals. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
They will all have visuals.
Yep.
It's just that the 4 will get like the intensive Anastasia level music video.
Okay.
The others will just get visualizers that will still be cool, but not as intense.
Okay, perfect. Well, plug everything. You got a show July 27th at the 5 spot.
Yes.
What else?
Definitely follow on YouTube and
Definitely
Instagram
follow on YouTube.
And,
oh my goodness, y'all. You are
we're about
missing
to be
out if you've
pushing
not
a
seen
lot
her music
more
videos.
on YouTube, and that's where all the music videos will be releasing soon. We've got 8 coming out soon. Like, we'll be setting the release date in a few, days. So coming out soon. Spotify, all the places. I think our goal is to have different content now going to each platform. So between TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, there will be different content. And, TikTok will be more behind the scenes, YouTube behind the scenes in different ways, and Instagram more of the forward-facing content. So definitely check out all of them. They'll all be different.
Okay, exciting. Well, I'm going to finish my Purple Kool-Aid. Make sure to hit up su-podcast.com. We're going to go do a live session with her. So y'all will not want to miss her vocals. And we're going to do a little house tour, costume tour. So it's going to be really exciting. So catch us at successfully_unsigned, at Unsigned Podcast on TikTok. Thank you guys so much. And we'll see you later. Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you.